everybody, and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be doing a little bit of a mixed thing today. The first small part of the video, it is not that much. The first small part of the video is actually B-roll footage from our trip to Alaska. I'm repping my Alaska gear. So for the past, well, I guess it's been 2 weeks now, but because we got sick on the cruise, which was great. But the first week, so 2 weeks ago, we went on a Disney Alaska cruise and it was so much fun. It was so much fun, except I got sick on day 2 and it like swept through the ship. It was not good. Like everybody was sick, and it was a whole week cruise, and by the time that we were done the cruise, my husband Lucas and my sister-in-law Daisy also were sick. So, and then now I think my mom is sick, and the only like holdouts are my dad and my brother. But anyways, I got a ton of footage from that trip, so I'm just gonna put that in like right after I kind of talk about what the trip actually is, and then after that, if you don't want to watch that, just skip forward to the wrap up. But I highly suggest watching that because Alaska's really cool. We did a lot of really cool things. So in the footage, it's just being on the boat for the first 2 days because there was this day at sea. And then we all the way up to Skagway, which is this like super tiny village town. It's adorable. We did this like mountain railway trip. So you see a bunch of pretty views of the mountains and stuff. And then next stop was Juneau, which is the capital of Alaska. Also gorgeous. We did the best of Juneau, which was like whale watching, so I would definitely watch that because there are videos of killer whales and one is jumping out of the water. It was amazing. So we did whale watching. We also ate at some place called Orca Point, which is like out like on one of the islands, and it was so awesome. And then we did a little tour through the town of Juneau because it is quite small. The last day we went to Ketchikan, which was my favorite day. Well, close. Juneau and Ketchikan were close, but Ketchikan we went on a Bering Sea tour kind of thing. Obviously didn't go out to the Bering Sea, but we did, like, we went on a Bering Sea ship that was on the show Deadliest Catch. It was the Aleutian Ballad. I don't think it was on the like show that long, but they turned it into this like tourist ship. So it had like stadium seating, and down in the center was a fish tank filled with crab and cool stuff, and they actually like caught crab, and then they fed the eagles because apparently in the United States it's illegal to feed eagles, but they have this deal with this tribe that lives in Alaska, and the tribe owns a bit of water, and around that bit of water there are a ton of eagles, and it's a destination spot where you can, well, we don't but they throw fish up into the air and the eagles come down and catch it, and there was like 30-40 bald eagles, and it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. I have footage from that as well, so I would highly suggest not skipping the B-roll and just watch it. It's not that long. I think it's like 5 or 6 minutes in total. And then I think that was pretty much it. Ketchikan, and then we had a day at sea, etc. I got sick Skagway. I was sick literally the 3rd day of the 7-day cruise. So I limped through it because I originally was gonna like do a bunch of stuff for Summerween and read all these things, and I ended up DNFing out there screaming, which I'll talk about in my July wrap up. So I ended up like just not having anything for Summerween, and again, I was sick for a lot of it, so I just didn't want to deal with it. So anyway, let me insert that footage from Alaska, and then once that is done, we will jump right into the wrap up.
till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. See the horizon, turn us to thousands, and we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush. Tape my eyes open to force reality. Why can't you just let me eat my weight in glee? I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in their cradles, profanities. Some days I feel skinnier than all the other days. Sometimes I can't tell if my body belongs to me. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush. Feel the tension, devils hide behind redemption. Honesty is a one-way gate to hell. I wanna taste consumption, breathe faster to waste oxygen. Hear the children sing aloud. It's music till the wick burns out.
Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed that Alaska trip as much as I did. It's like you guys were there. So let's get to the wrap up first. There are 3 books I can't really talk about because they are going to be in a Fairy Loot vlog that is coming out Wednesday. I was really hoping I would have the Fairy Loot vlog out first, but because of illness and things that happened in the vlog, because it was a bit of a disaster, I ended up not being able to get it out before the wrap up because my wrap up is also really late because of the trip and stuff. So there are 3 books that I did something with, either read or DNF'd, that I can't really talk about in this, but if you want to go check them out, watch the Loot vlog that is coming out Wednesday. So these are the 3 books. That's some of them. There's more. There's more in this Fairy Loot vlog. There are so many books because there were so many issues that I had. But yeah, so in that vlog I talk about A Feather So Black, which was a very high anticipated release because of how gorgeous it is. Son of Blood and Ruin, which I've had for a little bit, and then the new release Evocation, which I didn't even want to read, but read for purposes that I had to. Or maybe I didn't read it. That vlog is seriously the messiest Fairy Loot vlog I've recorded yet. Nothing went like it was supposed to because I started it a while ago and it's gone that badly that it just keeps going. I think I'm at like 5 or 6 books that I talk about in that video. I think 5 because I got mad and switched the way that I was doing things. So anyway, those are the 3 books that I can't super talk about. I feel like you can guess how I felt about pretty much all three of them by the way that I am talking about that vlog. But let's then talk about the DNFs. I had quite a few. Again, there's some in that pile. I DNF'd 2 from that pile, actually. Again, you'll have to watch the Fairy Loot vlog if you want to know which ones. But on top of that, I was about to say, you guys know 2 that I DNF'd, but there's also a third one that I DNF'd. So first off, we DNF'd First Lie Wins. This was part of a thriller vlog that I did last month. I did a lot of vlogs last month, which was really, really fun. Also, I am still sick, so I'm having issues. So I'm trying to get through this fast. This was not it for me. This, I can see why people liked this, but it was not it for me. It wasn't even the writing style. It was literally just the topic, and it was following a main character who is kind of like a spy. Like, she got in trouble, and to get rid of her, like her going to jail, she ended up becoming like a spy for this secret organization, and she's working for a Mr. Smith or something. This is not it. I like those things in movies because it's just like a fun action movie, but reading for 8-10 hours a book like this is not my cup of tea. So I definitely DNF'd this. Then the other one that I talked about in my horror vlog, I DNF'd Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. I absolutely loathed this book. I did not like the writing style. I did not like, and you're not supposed to like the characters, but I didn't like any of the characters, and I wasn't interested in reading about the characters. And that kind of just ruins a whole book for me. At least if I don't like the character, but they're like interesting or doing something interesting, then I'll be like, oh, like hate read kind of thing. Like, ooh, I'm loving reading this because the characters are so annoying and interesting. This was just like, I don't want to read this because the characters are annoying. There's a fine line between the two, and yeah, I hated this. I was so sad. This was one of my most anticipated releases of the entire year because I love cursed film books. At least I thought I did, but I've DNF'd a couple or given 1 stars to them. But I hated this. I really hated this because it's following our main character who was in a movie before that's become like that was never released, but there's a couple scenes that were released, and now there's like a film crew who wants to remake the movie and actually release it, and they want him involved, and it takes place between flashbacks of him in doing the original movie and them talking about the new movie and the script of like it's either, I think it's the original or the new one. I think it might be the new one, but I think I read about 100 or 80 to 100 pages, and I just really hated it. If you like Paul Tremblay, I would try it if you are interested in trying it, but otherwise, just skip. It's a skip. And then the third one I DNF'd. I was really sad. Actually, one of my subscribers recommended this one, so I feel really bad. I don't remember who it was, so I'm not gonna say her name. But someone recommended this for one of my prompts because, oh yeah, my TBR game, I am extending it through July since I had vacation things and stuff going on in June. But I had a recommendation for one of the prompts, which was like Stepford Wives or something like that. So I was kind of going for like a perfect world situation where things aren't as they seem. And so I was recommended Snow Globe. I did not like this. Well, okay. Backtrack a little bit. I love the idea of this. It's following our main character who lives in, basically the whole world is going through an ice age kind of thing. Like the planet has been destroyed and everything is ice age. And there's one place in the world called Snow Globe where it's literally like you're living in a snow globe. So anyone who lives in Snow Globe, it's like you're living in like what we live in now instead of in snowy apocalypse. But you agree to either be a director or a producer, or you're in a TV show, and it's like wild. It's like constant reality TV, and I love the idea of that. That is such a cool idea. The problem is the execution of this book. I loved the beginning of it. And then it got weird. Like once we were actually in Snow Globe with our main character, because our main character wants to be a director, but she ends up in Snow Globe being an actress doing other things due to doppelganger things. And that's where I started losing interest. And I should have seen that's where it was going. But I thought all the characters were just really obnoxious and caricatures of real characters. And then it got weird. Like, there's some weird fantasy stuff in this that I wasn't expecting. Like, this seems like it's supposed to be like dystopian sci-fi, and all of a sudden we had some fantasy aspects like portal magic introduced into this, and no one was questioning anything. It just felt very unrealistic for how I like my sci-fi. I know I'm saying unrealistic and it's literally like living in a snow globe, but that's the thing about fantasy and sci-fi, are there rules for that world most of the time. There are rules that you're supposed to stay within the parameter of, and I feel like this broke its own rules. It feels like this weird portal magic was put into this and it makes no sense with the rest of the story. Like, does that make sense? Like, worlds having their own rules. Like, let's see, like in A Court of Thorns and Roses. If suddenly you had doppelgangers and you had a spaceship suddenly appear in A Court of Thorns and Roses, you would be like, that doesn't make any sense. But then people would argue, well, it's fantasy, anything. No, there are rules to each world. That would be weird if that stuff started happening. And that's what happened in this. Putting the portal magic in here was like a step outside of its own reality. And it was weird. It was weird. And that's where it lost me. And it got really boring. Like, it got really repetitive in the center. It got really, really boring. And unfortunately, it ended up being a DNF. I just couldn't bring myself to continue it, which is so sad because I love the idea behind this. I thought it was such a cool idea. It just was executed very poorly, in my opinion. Okay, I think we're gonna go in order of star rating. And this is my favorite part about wrap-ups, is I change my rating a lot of times from when I did vlogs. I'm so bad about it. Like, I'll read a book and then I'm immediately like, okay, this is my star rating. And then I'll sit on it for like a month and I'm like, nah, it's something else. I have a different star rating. So my ratings may be different from my vlogs if you watch the vlogs, but they're generally about the same. Like, it's normally a half a star or like, it's not that much. I'm not going to jump from a 1 to a 5. That's not going to happen. But if it's like a 4.5, I might jump it to a 5. Or if it's a 5, I might be like, oh, it's really a 4.5. So that's kind of what I mean. It's not like huge jumps. It's just little tweaks as we talk about the books, and they've sat with me. So I think we're going to go in order of star rating. This was not a great reading month. I read a lot, but I feel like it was quantity over quality. It was rough. It was rough. So I'm out here fighting for my life. I actually just read a 5-star book and I am so hype about it. I'm so excited about it. But I felt like I waded through a bog to get to that 5-star. It has been, I think, March or April since I read a 5-star, and I think my 5 stars this year, I could not list, The Haunting of Belkwood. I did read that this year and I really liked that one. But otherwise, I have a hard time like thinking, oh, these are my 5 stars. It's just not been a good reading year. I think I found a lot of mediocre books. I also haven't found any I really, really hate. I also haven't found any I really, really love until now. Like, the book that I just read is my favorite book I've read so far. But anyway, I read it in July, so you're not going to hear about it until the Fairy Loot vlog. It is in the Fairy Loot vlog. Okay, so let's start with our one star. I think I have one star, and that is Bless Your Heart. I read this on recommendation from watching Olivia Reads a Latte videos. I feel really bad. This one should have been a slam dunk. There's like, it says it's like True Blood meets, this says Steel Magnolias meets Buffy with a dab of Ghost Story. And like, it's supposed to feel very True Blood, but like some comedy. And I thought it was gonna be like this cozy horror, and it's kind of marketed like a cozy horror. And it was not a cozy horror. Well, it was, but I just didn't like it. My biggest problem with this is there were so many points of view and it became repetitive. So this is following our main characters of this whole family, and I hated the ending of this whole family, and it turns out that they are like vampire hunter kind of things, and they run a funeral parlor, and it's their job to make sure the dead are not rising. The vampires are very zombie-esque in this. I wasn't expecting that. They definitely took a different take on the vampires, which is really cool. I liked how they did that. But but everything else about it was so beyond frustrating. Obviously, the dead are rising and the family takes over trying to figure out what's happening and solving the mystery of that. The problem is that every single character in this book had a point of view, and it's not long, like it's not long enough for that. And so stuff repeated over and over and over again, because you would get the daughter's point of view and she would say something, and then you would get the mom's point of view and she would like start off by talking about the same thing and then move into her own thing. And then you had like the grandmother's point of view and she started off talking about the same things that both the other two people talked about and then talked about it in her perspective. So it was so beyond repetitive that I almost DNF'd it 3 or 4 times, but because this was in my horror vlog, I had already DNF'd horror movie, I was like, I'm not DNFing another one. I'm not doing it. I'm not DNFing another one. This one, it's gonna be a series. It's gonna be a series. And I was really hoping this was gonna be like my new cozy horror series where I would read each one that came out in the series. I'm gonna give the second one a try. I know I gave this a 1 because I really did hate it. I really hated the experience of reading this, but I think it set up potentially some interesting things to happen in a second book. The ending is really what solidified it as a 1. The rest of the book, I was gonna give it a 2, but the ending, I really hated the ending. So we'll see. We'll see about the second one. I might try it. I'm definitely not gonna buy it, but I'm gonna probably try it. So I think this is the first time I'm actually like keeping a 1 star and actually gonna try and read the sequel. Besides, I mean, I did read My Heart is a Chainsaw. I've read that whole series except for the last one, and I did give the first one 1 star. Anyway, yeah, bless your heart. It was just not good. There were so many other cozy mystery thrillers to read. That is not this. This was not good. This one, I think I originally gave a 3 star. It's not a 3 star. I gaslighted myself into saying this was a 3 star. Murder Road. This is a 2 star. This was not good. This was not good. I still think it's better than the last one. I don't remember what the last one was, but the last one on St. James was really bad. This one had some interesting things in it, but there were so many plot holes, I feel like, and stuff that wasn't talked about and didn't make sense. And after watching some like lives and people doing their own videos on this book, like, no, this was actually really bad. I did give it a 2 star because there was never a point that there was one point that I wanted to DNF, but otherwise I generally read this pretty fast. But it's following our two main characters on here. And they are going on their honeymoon and they end up stopped in this like little town and they witness what they believe is a murder, and there's some paranormal aspects to it. And so it's kind of this like, it's supposed to be like this small town murder mystery kind of thing, but it ends up just being the police hate them, and it's them not really doing that much, but also somehow solving the mystery that you cannot solve because you don't meet the murder suspect until the end of the book. I'm sorry if I ruined that, but that pisses me off. That is what kind of solidified it as a 2 star. Is I hate books that you cannot solve because there's no way to solve it. Like, there's literally no way to solve this book and the murder in it because you don't have all the information until like the last 50 pages. I don't like that. That pisses me off. And so this is a 2 star. It was not good. I'm really sad because I love this edition of the book, but I hope that doesn't fall over. Next up, we have another 2 star. I think I gave this 2.5, and I am torn between 2 and 2.5, but it is our book club, A Fate Inked in Blood. This was rough. This was rough. Pretty much everyone agreed. This was rough. This is supposed to be like a Viking-esque romantasy, and I'm not the biggest fan of romantasy, but the romance in this was not good. The guy sucked. Like, he legitimately sucked. Like, he was not fun to read as her counterpart. There was no chemistry between the two of them, but it is following our main character. I don't even remember her name. I read that. This is like the first book I read, Freya. It's following Freya, and she is in a small town, and everyone has like powers, or not everyone, but you can be like God's blessed and you can get powers, and she has powers that she's been hiding, but she ends up being found out. None of this is a spoiler. This is what happens in the first like 10 pages. So she ends up getting absorbed into like the army kind of, and she is seen as the blessed one. And I'm doing a really bad job of explaining this book because I just don't care. I am going to try the second one. I am gonna try the second one. But I don't know, they just have to figure some stuff out. That's all I know, is she supposedly has to do these trials and has to prove herself that she is going to be the kingmaker or something like that. I don't exactly remember. There was one pretty good twist in here, but really all I remember is that Bjorn was the worst love interest. The worst love interest, like, that I've ever read. Like, he was awful and so annoying, and there was no chemistry, and our main character was supposed to be this like super powerful woman, like, but she was so whiny and not once had her own thought. Like, there were zero thoughts in her head that belonged to her. So not fun to read. I will try the second one because it has set up some interesting things for the second book, but if it's a trilogy, I don't know if I'm even gonna try it. If it's a duology, okay, I'll try it. But if it's a trilogy, I'm like, I don't know if I want to start that. So yeah, this was rough. This was rough, and I am so sorry to my book club because most people did not like this. Next up are the 3 stars and up. We have The Raven Boys. I definitely gave this is just a solid 3. I think I gave it a 3.5, but it's a solid 3. It just, I feel like I would have liked this when I was younger, like when this came out, but I was so bored by the Raven Boys point of view. Blue's point of view is so interesting. So we're following kind of 2 sets of people. Blue, who is like the daughter of a family of psychics, and which is really interesting. And she finds out like if she kisses her true love, he'll die. And that's kind of like the premise of like her side of the story, but there's some magic going on and some bad things happening in her town. So she gets sucked into this group called the Raven Boys, which is the other point of view. And they are trying to find ley lines and figure out something magical for reasons that you don't find out until late in the book. And their point of view was so boring. Blue's point of view was so good. It should have just been Blue's point of view. Again, this is another book that suffered from too many points of view. The author wanted to do too many things in this book immediately. This would have been so good if it was a singular point of view. It should have just been Blue, and then as we go along in the series, it should have introduced more characters and perspectives, because it was just annoying reading through so many different perspectives. And I was lost for a lot of this book. Like, it wasn't explaining, like, it jumped you right in, and it was like, this is what we're looking for, the ley lines, and this is the magic, and this is, and you're like, bro, can we take a step back, please, and explain what's happening? Because this made no sense. And it was also very predictable. Like the twist was not a twist, most of it. There was a little thing at the end I wasn't expecting, but pretty much all the twists were like you were supposed to be really surprised by one. Like, you can tell. It's like one of those books where the author is like, I'm doing something really cool in this. Nah, everyone can see what you're doing from a mile away. So I am debating. I think I'm going to continue in the series. I think I'm going to try the second book, but my hopes are very low. My expectations are incredibly low compared to how high they were for this first book. So maybe that will help me enjoy the rest of the series, because I do love the nostalgia factor. I definitely felt the nostalgia. Like, it felt like I was back reading Twilight and like that part of my life. So I did like that, and I did like Blue's point of view. And that's why I get a 3-star, because I also thought the ending was pretty good of this one. But yeah, it was just overall kind of just super mid. Like, it was just a very mid book for my expectations of it. Next up, we have another 3. It's like 3.5. Again, I'm so torn on a lot of these of getting a half star, but I do think I enjoyed this more than the Raven Boys. I'm gonna give it a 3. It's just a 3. This is a fun time, but it's nothing I'm going to remember long term. And that is Home is Where the Bodies Are. This was purely a pickup because of how gorgeous it is. And I'm glad it got a 3-star, because that means I can keep it. Because I'm definitely keeping this one. This is following, this one had multiple perspectives. There were 3 perspectives in this, but I think it worked surprisingly to the advantage of this story, which is not something I say very often. More than 2 perspectives, generally I don't enjoy that much. But the fact that this had 3 and it still worked, because the 3rd perspective was very minimal, it would randomly pop up and you're like, oh, That worked for it. But it worked because it was just kind of, is a popcorn thriller. I like popcorn thrillers. That's just how I am. And it's super short. It's like 230 pages. Like, it's just like, I'm here to have a good time. And that's what this book is. So this is following 3 siblings whose mother just died, and they find this VHS tape where, I don't want to spoil anything. I'm seeing what's on the back. They watch a VHS tape from 1999, and on screen their father appears covered in blood, and it looks like there is a body. So cool. Such a cool premise. And the father has been missing, and they don't know where he is, and the mom just died. And there's just some weird things going on. This is, again, another predictable one. But it was fun predictable. Like, this was one that you were like, okay, I know it's happening, but I want to see how it's done. I want to see how you do it. It held up. It held up. Oh man. It's looking real bad. Okay, next on this list is a definite 3.5, 3.75. What Feast at Night. Again, read this for my horror vlog. I liked it, but I had some problems with it. It's too short. A lot of times I really like novellas, but this is too short. This is legitimately too short. The first book, what was it called? I have it. What Moves the Dead. I really liked it. I think I gave it a 3.75 just because the writing style is kind of older feeling, which is not normally my favorite thing, but I love the substance of that book. So excited that we got a sequel to What Moves the Dead. But unfortunately, it was just too short. There wasn't enough time to build the backstory that this book deserved, because this book was cool. Like, this had some really, really, really cool stuff in it that needed about another 50 to 100 pages, which still would have had it less than 300 pages, because this is, and like, you even had stuff like that, like the tiniest, there it went. This needed that because it was such a cool storyline. Again, this is following like our main characters from What Moves the Dead. What's their name? Alex Easton. And this is going back to like their home, and there is some weird, creepy things happening at their family home or cabin, something like that. I don't remember exactly where it was, but I think it's like a cabin that they own. So good. So good. But there wasn't enough. There wasn't enough to get that emotional impact from the story going on. It needed so much more. I'm so sad because this could have been like an absolute 5-star, but there wasn't enough. Second to last book that I read was a 4-star, and it is The Housemaid is Watching. I know a lot of people don't like the books in this series, but I really enjoy them. And I know especially a lot of people didn't enjoy this one as much as the first 2, and I can see why. It is very different. It is very different from the first 2 books. This is taking place like 10 years after the first 2 books, and our main character is happy living a suburban life, and it is following the same maid from the first 2 books, and I literally can't talk about it because it's spoiling things for the first 2 books, but there is a murder in her suburban town or neighborhood, and she has got to figure out what's going on because it's going to directly deal with her family and her life. So I loved it. Again, it's another popcorn thriller. If you want serious thrillers, you shouldn't be reading this. These are just for a fun, quick time. This book took me a day and a half to read. It was so fast. I buddy read this with my mom because my mom also likes the series, and she also ended up liking this one as well. So we both enjoyed it. We thought it was a lot of fun. So I would recommend it if you enjoyed the first 2. Just again, it's a popcorn thriller. Just have a fun time with it. And then my favorite book of the month is not a 5-star. It was close. It was close, but I ended up giving it a 4.25 because I did have a couple of problems with it. The ending was really what gave me an issue with this book, but it is The Invocations. This is so good. I feel like I kept saying this author wrote a book when it was actually a different book. I kept saying that this was the author of My Darkest Dearest, My Dearest Darkest, but it's not. This is the author of House of Hollow. And I knew that because House of Hollow was amazing. I loved it. And the writing style is so, like, if you liked House of Hollow, you will love this. The writing style is very similar. This is still young adult. Like, I don't remember if this is listed as adult, but this is still young adult with some more grotesqueness added in. Like, it's definitely grosser than House of Hollow. There's some pretty nasty body horror, but nothing like I would like gag at or expect in an adult book. Like, but it was so good. So good. If you love books about women and witches and some body horror in there and just cool magic, this is the book. This is the book. And it has one of my new favorite characters. Jude is one of my new favorite characters. I absolutely love her. And the magic in this is so cool. I just love it. But yeah, it's following our three main characters. I love the art on this because I think it like shows them really, really well. They're all fabulous. Like they're all amazing. And there are witches involved, and each one of them has their own like mission that they're trying to solve. They each have a problem that they're dealing with. And so they come together to work together. And there's like an overarching mystery of witches disappearing and being found murdered. So it's so good. It's so good. I cannot recommend this book enough. It is amazing. This is everything I want from my horror books. I loved it. Yeah, so that is everything that I read this month. It was quite a lot. And I had 5 DNFs total. So like I said, we talked about 3 of them. 2 of the other ones are in the pile I can't talk about yet. You'll see that on Wednesday. I read a lot. I read a lot of books. I read 9 plus the 5 DNFs. I mean, that's a lot of books. That is a lot of books. And generally mid of a month, but the books that I liked, like The Housemaid Is Watching and The Invocations, I had a really, really good time with. So that kind of always makes the month worth it if I at least had something I really, really liked. So The Invocations could end up being a 5-star by the end of the year. Kind of just depends how I feel about the rest of the year and what I think about it as we go on. But yes, that is everything that I have for you today. Again, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future content, including that Fairy Loot catch-up vlog. I'm going to be doing a ton of Fairy Loot catch-up vlogs and a ton of Illumicrate vlogs and Owlcrate vlogs because I really want to read the books that I have not read yet. That's kind of my goal for the rest of the year, is to not buy that many books and read the books that I have, which is a lot. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you like it if you enjoyed it. Make sure you tell me down below what you guys read in June, and if you've read any of these, if you want to read any of these, stuff like that. And yeah, that's everything I have for you today, so I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.